Welcome to Field Education Agency Orientation. My name is Crystal and I am with Cassie, and we will go ahead and share with you all information about our program. This is designed by the Department of Social Work, Office of Field Education. We will be using portions of research and proven training by Alan J. Detlaff. So if you have been a field instructor before, some of this information may seem familiar, as many schools across the country use this training for field instructors and task supervisors. We are guided by the Educational Policy and Accreditation Standards of CSWE, and we are mandated to provide an orientation and training to agency-based field instructors.
So the first thing we'd like to do is to introduce you to our field team. We have the Director of Field Education, Susie Ryder, and she oversees our field office. We have Assistant Director of Field Education and Placement Development and Support, Amanda Campbell. She oversees the student placement process and is a great resource if you have any questions about placements for the next year. The other Assistant Director of Field Education and Student Placement Support is Ann Kim, and she assists organizing employment-based internships and helping students, agencies, and faculty field liaisons through our student support process if there's any problems that come up during placement. Our clinical faculty leads create the curriculum for the students' field experience course. Karina Banabe is the current lead for the BSSW program, and Ann Sullivan is the lead for both our MSW Foundation and Concentration curriculum. Crystal Gutierrez is one of the field coordinators who oversees the agency onboarding and ongoing trainings. And I'm Cassie Mullen, our other field coordinator, who works with our Sonia system and data management. Supervisors will likely see emails from the Field at MSU Denver account with important timely information regarding field placement process, so please read those emails.
The Department of Social Work's organizational chart. Just to provide you with some context and structural information, this graphic shows the organization of the Social Work Department. The Department of Social Work functions within the College of Professional Studies and is then divided between 4 areas. Our MSW program, which is led by the MSW Program Director, Dr. Joe Bailey. Our BSSW program, which is led by the BSSW Program Director, Dr. Kay Scherer. Our Office of Social Work Student Services, which is led by the Director of Student Services, Amy Middleton. And our Office of Field Education, which is led by Susie Ryder. Stipend programs and opportunities within our department. As a non-traditional institution, we are always looking for ways to help our student demographics. We have different types of stipends and or opportunities our students can apply for. Child welfare stipend is overseen by Lara Bruce. We have also received several HRSA stipends, which are funded through the Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources, and Service Administration. This is a workforce development grant which provides $10,000 for concentration year MSW students, which awards these funds to 30 students between CSU and MSU Denver. These stipends are provided as a commitment to providing behavioral health, substance abuse, and mental health. Next is the HEALS stipend, which is coordinated by Tanya Greathouse, which provides opportunities for students to gain access to healthcare leaders, opportunities for conferences, and opportunities for field supervisors in the community. And last but not least is our employment-based field placement opportunity. Although it's not necessarily a stipend, it is an opportunity that many of our students opt for. There are many parameters around this opportunity, including a student who is already working in the social work community field and is wanting to complete their field placement at their place of employment. And the person who oversees that is Ann Kim. The Department of Social Work also offers several scholarships, such as one for students focusing on gerontology, one for bilingual and bicultural students, and a diversity scholarship.
Our program formally acknowledges the critical role field plays in the professional preparation of social work students. Field education is considered the signature pedagogy per the Council on Social Work Education, or CSWE. This is truly where the integration of theory into practice takes place and students transform their classroom learning about social work knowledge, values, and skills and their personal experience and values into their professional identity as a social worker. It also requires us to be more conscious of how we teach students to apply knowledge to the actual practice of social work in the field setting. Students will learn by doing under your supervision. Their focus turns from acquisition of knowledge that they gain into application of knowledge. Our goal is to help students integrate theory into practice so that they can serve clients effectively. Keep in mind that students are not learning how to do one specific job at your agency, but rather to be learning the necessary skills, ethics, and values regarding what it means to be a social worker in any setting.
Field Overview. The information on this slide is also located on the Field Overview handout, which is located on our website. Our BSSW and MSW Foundation curriculum are similar with regards to their experience and requirements. Both have the same required number of hours that students must obtain by the end of the academic year. The hours per week are a general guideline and are not meant to be a hard and fast rule, since we understand all of our partnered agencies are set up differently. Both BSSW and MSW Foundation year are based on a generalist experience, which means students have exposure to micro, meso, and macro levels, working with individuals, families, groups, and communities and organizations. We do ask students work with you to identify specific examples of tasks and activities at all those levels. These can be community trainings, client experience, policy work, and/or research. Our MSW concentration year students are expected to have a more specialized experience. These should be experiences that are more based on specific areas of social work, as students learn to fine-tune the skills that they began learning during their generalist experience. Our concentration year students include both second-year MSW students and advanced standing students. Anyone who has completed an accredited BSSW program can skip over their foundation year. They are referred to as concentration students. The reason for this is that BSSW coursework and experience is equivalent to an MSW foundation year experience.
The Field Seminar Course. What students do in their Field Seminar course is to really help students integrate what they're learning in the classroom with their field experience. Students may be asked to use journaling, presentations, group activities, or discussion to help them during this process. The course is also a way to help with practice-related issues, vicarious trauma, development of professional identity, social justice in the field. The instructor for this course is the student's faculty field liaison, or FFL. Your student's FFL should introduce themselves at the beginning of the fall semester. They will be your primary link with the school and can be a great resource for you as you and the student navigate the field placement. The student's FFL will also schedule site visits throughout the academic year. The initial site visit, which happens in the fall, will be getting to know you and the student. They will check in with both you and the student via email in December through February to see how the student is progressing in their fieldwork. The final site visit will happen between March and April to talk through the student transition of finishing their field placement and to reflect on the experience. If you don't hear from your FFL in the first 2 weeks of the semester, please email us at field@msudenver.edu.
Roles in field. If you are taking the time to watch this video, you may be either a field instructor, a task supervisor, or an agency coordinator. Students and community partners can understandably be confused by the differences between the roles listed on the slide, and some of these roles, including agency coordinators, often overlap. The roles basically come down to what kind of credentials and availability a supervisor has. Field instructors. They often oversee both BSSW and MSW students in day-to-day activities and provide an hour of direct supervision weekly to reflect on the student's social work experience. If you have an MSW social work degree, as well as 2 years postgraduate social work experience, you can supervise all student levels. You can still be a field instructor if you have a BSSW plus 2 years post-degree experience if you are supervising a BSSW student. If you are supervising a student and do not have these degree requirements, you are most likely a task supervisor. TAS supervisors do not necessarily need a social work degree, but will have a degree within a related field, such as counseling, human services, or behavioral science, or will have significant experience in the field. TAS supervisors oversee the day-to-day learning activities and are responsible for skill development. They also provide students with an hour of supervision every week. Some agencies won't have a TAS supervisor, as a field instructor normally fulfills this role if they are on site and available during a student's intern hours. TAS supervisors are needed for students who do not have regular supervision from the field instructors or have an off-site field instructor. Off-site field instructors have an MSW plus 2 years post-master's degree experience. These individuals are either chosen by the agency or MSU Denver for this role. An off-site field instructors help to ensure that every student has access to a supervisor who has a social work degree for an hour of supervision every other week, and typically work with students and TAS supervisors to add insight on the student's learning agreement and evaluation. This is mandated by the CSWE accreditation standards. We have resources that outline these roles located on our website, and if you are unsure of what the supervision model looks like for your agency, please feel free to reach out to our office. As mentioned previously by Cassie, the faculty field liaisons are also referred to as FFLs. They are the instructors who teach this field seminar classes and provide support to students and agencies. They will be your primary go-to individual throughout the academic year.
Field policies. We are going to cover some of the most commonly referred to field policies. We have a field manual located on our website that covers all of this information and more about our field office. The first policy that we will cover is students' banking hours. Our field program is designed so that students complete their field seminar course alongside their placement experiences. For that reason, students are not allowed to bank hours over the summer or during the breaks in order to end their field placement early. While we know that there are always exceptions, the field placement should really be done during that August to May timeframe. If for some reason that your student needs to take some time off, they have to communicate with you in order to make up those hours. The next policy that we will cover is about university breaks and holidays. Over the course of the academic year, students have different breaks such as Thanksgiving week, winter break, and spring break. We understand that in order to have continuity of care, some agencies will need their students to work over university breaks and/or holidays. While our program does not require that students attend their internship during these times, we ask that you have a conversation with your student about holidays and breaks so that they can plan accordingly. Our personal use of vehicle policy is that if you do require your students to drive with their personal vehicle, that they make sure that they understand your agency's policy on transportation of clients. While we do cover student liability in field placement, we do not cover anything related to car insurance or transportation of clients. Lastly, our program does not provide or require background checks for students in our program. Many of our agency partners have different standards for what to screen for, so we leave this up to the agency to determine what type of background check is required for the student and their placement. We also ask that agencies communicate this during their onboarding requirements to the students in the interview process, especially if they have additional costs that the student needs to plan for accordingly.
Field placement orientation. Students in our MSU Denver social work program are required to attend field orientation. During the field orientation, the field office explains and debriefs the importance of field, parameters of our program, expectations of the school, students, and agencies, and who to reach out to when in need. All of our students are required to complete a field agency experience as an expectation of our program. Since our community agencies are an extension of our program, we encourage all of our community partners to provide an agency orientation. Orientations help students understand what is in store for them for the academic year, just as important as when a new employee receives information about their new place of employment, which is crucial for their success. We understand that there are many different styles of an orientation, such as having an internship binder with resources to having students attend the agency's new employee orientation. Although there are many ways you can host an orientation, they should cover the same topics. Orientations set the tone, they reduce fears, and they save time. Students who do not receive a formal orientation have to spend a considerable amount of time finding information on their own, which may leave them with less time to devote to learning. Now, I will discuss a few themes or considerations that should be addressed before and after the social work student arrives at your agency. Before the student arrives at your agency, please communicate to other staff members the role and purpose of your social work student. It is important that other staff members understand the role of your student, which includes understanding that the student is not an administrative assistant. Please feel free to ask important staff members if they would like to give a brief presentation about their role at the agency and how they will partner or impact the students. In addition, please reach out to HR or the IT department for access and policies around necessary tools that a student would need at the agency, such as a computer and/or phone. Once the student arrives at your agency, please show them their designated workspace. Please provide student with necessary information, including the following: agency policies, procedure, and manual, telephone, computer, and communication policies, office procedures, supplies, and provisions, parking details and mileage policy, work schedule, including late arrivals, policy around sick time or being absent, lunchtime and breaks, agency department and/or meeting proposed schedules, policies around confidentiality, release of information, privileged communication, informed consent policies, and procedures. Please describe information on referral policies, client fees and payment schedules, if applicable, client records, charting policies, and their procedures, harassment and discrimination policies, Americans with Disabilities Act policy, HIPAA regulations and legislation. In addition, please share policy around use of social media, personal and professional standards and/or expectations, policies on cell phone use, and dress code. Moreover, please provide the student with an agency tour. This will help the student or students become familiar with the physical location of the placement. Please inform the student where the restrooms are, spaces that are off limits, the culture around communal spaces, and introduce students to important staff members as a part of the tour. Lastly, it is extremely important to cover safety during your orientation. Please cover the following 4 items: child or elder abuse reporting laws and protocol, risk of harm protocols including suicide or assaultive/combative behaviors, client emergency protocol, and safety and security procedures and protocol. Please address the following 4 questions when having these conversations. Question 1. What are the written and unwritten agency procedures pertaining to safety and risk management? Question 2. What are the student and staff roles in the procedures? Question 3. How is an event reported and documented? Question 4. What is the student supposed to do when there is a crisis and the immediate supervisor is not available? Overall, we know this is a lot of information and can take time to process and execute. We are thankful for your hard work and dedication to our students. If you have any questions or concerns, feel free to reach out to the Office of Field Education at field@msudenver.edu. The orientation process is an amazing way to build a rapport with your student and address those concerns. We encourage our supervisors to have fun with the orientation process. Our last tip for you is, feel free to include any information you wish you would have known when you first started working at your agency.
Here are the 9 social work competencies established by CSWE that we use to evaluate students on their progress through the social work program. You will see these competencies on students' learning agreements and evaluations throughout the year, and we will be referring back to these competencies in the next few slides. The learning agreement is a form that our program uses to help students map out their projected learning activities that they will be engaging with during their placement. Students will work with their supervisors to develop and implement the learning agreement based on the 9 social work competencies and their correlated practice behaviors. The outline of the learning activities should clearly show how students plan to meet the learning requirements of the competency based on the activities that they participate in during their internship. These activities can range from tasks or responsibilities the students have, readings they are given, trainings they attend, conversations during supervision, and so on. Some practice behaviors are more challenging to map out based on the setting of your agency or the work that the student is participating in. We encourage supervisors to help their students be creative when developing these learning activities. This form is also a working document so that you and your student can continue to make edits throughout the year. The student's learning agreement will help guide students and supervisors during the evaluation, so that everyone can clearly see how the student is progressing in their understanding of the 9 social work competencies.
Students will have 2 evaluations each academic year. One will be at the end of fall semester, and the final evaluation will be at the end of the spring semester. BSSW students will also have an additional evaluation that takes place mid-semester. Students will complete their self-evaluation in SONIA to rate themselves on their own understandings of the 9 social work competencies and the learning activities they have completed. The student supervisors will then work together to rate the students on the 9 social work competencies and the associated practice behavior. It is important for supervisors to collaborate, as a student may be interacting with different practice behaviors differently based on the supervisor's role. This is particularly important if the student has an on-site task supervisor and an off-site field instructor. Students should be rated on their demonstrated performance of each of the practice behaviors, as one would expect them to perform at this stage of their undergraduate, graduate foundation, or graduate concentration year internship. Once everyone has a chance to complete the evaluation, the student and their supervisors will meet for an evaluation conference to discuss the evaluation. The focus of the evaluation process should be on providing the student with constructive feedback so they can continue to work on improving the development of their skills as a social worker.
Integrating theory and practice. Students need to understand how their field experiences are connected to social work practice by answering the following questions. Where do these actions fit into the overall helping process? Why was this interaction necessary for effective social work practice with this client and/or system? And how am I acting as an emerging, culturally responsive social worker dedicated to social justice? Students in field are more likely to focus on task completion rather than the reasons behind the tasks. They may be so focused on the tasks that they are completing, they do not think about the social work knowledge and skills that they are also developing, and simply may be imitating the actions of their supervisor or others that they have observed. Some students rarely critically analyze their actions, and when one task is completed, they simply move on to the next. Students need to be prompted to make the connection between the tasks and the reasons behind them. The process of making these connections is integrating theory and practice, anchored in understanding the real lives of clients and systems. It is the role of the field instructor and task supervisor to assist in making these connections. In order to teach social work knowledge, values, and skills, you need to analyze your own practice and think critically about what knowledge, values, and skills are necessary for effective practice in your roles at your agency, and how are these values and skills anchored in social justice. It helps to walk a student through your thought process. Why did I choose to be confrontive? What assumptions did I make about this client? It is also important to remember that as supervisors, we have to let the students do their work. Here are some examples of ways that as a supervisor, you can assist students in creating connection between social work theory and their role in field. Number 1, have them explain the theory to you and have them connected to a situation at the agency. Number 2, help them with an agency-based case studies and see how a particular theory may apply to that situation. And number 3, ask questions on how do social justice and culturally responsive consciousness apply to this particular theory, and how are they interacting with this in the field. Remember, when talking about integrating theory and practice, it's not just about the theory, it's about the values, the ethics, the social justice, personal reflection, or the why we do what we do, and what tenets of social work are coming into play at this moment.
SONIA is the official database that we use in the MSW Department of Social Work. We use this database for organizing information for students' placements. During the student placement process, agencies will be interacting with SONIA to update placement information and requesting student interns between December through January. They will also use SONIA to make official internship offers, which notify the field office that a student has secured an internship for the upcoming academic year. This process is done February through June. These processes are typically done by the primary contact for the agency. If the position has changed recently for your agency, we ask that you let our office know by emailing field@msudenver.edu. SONIA is also used by the students, field instructors, and task supervisors during their field placement for completing the student's learning agreement and evaluations. Supervisors can access these forms through notifications that are sent to them after the student submits their portion, or through the supervisor's own SONIA account. Instructions for both of these forms will be sent to the agency supervisors prior to their release dates and are also available on our website. Please contact our office at field@msudenver.edu if you are having trouble accessing your SONIA account or if you have any additional questions about the SONIA database.
Supervision requirements. There are 2 different supervision models that a student can have that meet the CSWE accreditation requirement for field. Option number 1 is that a student having an hour of supervision each week by a qualified field instructor who has a social work degree plus 2 years post-degree experience. Option number 2 is that the student has an hour of supervision with their task supervisor. Again, that is an individual that oversees the student in their daily tasks but does not have a social work degree. And they receive an hour of supervision every other week with a qualified field instructor, either an on-site or off-site. We ask agencies that do not have a social worker on staff that can provide directly weekly supervision that they attempt to identify an off-site field instructor to work with their interns before turning to the field team for support. Off-site field instructors may be employees who work in a different department, a former employee, a board member, etc. This can help make the supervision experience more meaningful for the student if their off-site field instructor is familiar with the work at the agency. The agency is also responsible for providing a task supervisor in this option. If you have any questions about the supervision model, please reach out to our field team and we are happy to provide some insight.
First, we would like to say thank you for taking on this additional responsibility. We know that providing supervision for a student intern takes time from your already busy schedule. However, we believe that you will also receive a good return on your initial time investments. And even small changes can make a big difference. Now I want to take a few minutes to talk about the importance of effective supervision. We think it is important for 2 main reasons. Reason number 1 is that research on student satisfaction with field suggests that it is only the quality of supervision provided that influences students' perception rather than the instructor's personal characteristics. And the second reason is that becoming a field instructor or task supervisor requires a cognitive shift. You must go from a practitioner perspective to an educator perspective, which is different than even clinical supervision, where often practitioners treat the client through the student or focus on the personal growth of the student. To be a supervisor requires new skills such as helping students develop learning goals, providing effective feedback, nurturing the student's professional identity, and integrating theory and practice. We know that agency supervisors are incredibly busy, and finding an hour a week can be challenging among the other responsibilities a supervisor hosts. We want all of you to reflect on the different strategies you have to utilize to ensure consistent supervision time in the past. Also, how are you planning to build in supervision as you plan for your interns this year?
In general, in social work supervision literature, there are three main functions of supervision. Administrative, which is making sure interns are adhering to policies and procedures, doing their job, including paperwork, assigning cases, and evaluations. The educational function, which is the main area for field instructors, which is designed in teaching social work knowledge and skills. This includes practicing skills with clients, how to be part of a multidisciplinary team, and how to develop their social work identity. The last main function is supportive, which involves helping students to handle stress in their internship and to help prevent vicarious trauma. Research tells us that there are certain specific topics that students want to discuss during supervision sessions. The topics associated with student satisfaction are primarily issues related to students' practice experiences, practicing skills, cases and client projects, ongoing performance, and personal strengths and limitations. While they may occasionally want to discuss topics like career development and class assignments, what students want most is direct practical information. They want this time with their field instructor and task supervisor to focus primarily on their practice, their work in the field, and the areas that need improvement.
There are three distinct phases when it comes to working with students in supervision. The first is the engagement phase. This early phase of engagement is crucial in setting the tone and laying the foundation for a strong working relationship with the student. Often, problems in field can be traced back to the early phase of the internship and lack of clarity around expectations or the working alliance between the supervisor and the student not being properly established. Some ways to work with your student during these phases include providing support, understanding the student's learning style, teachings that share vulnerabilities, and how that is a hallmark of being a great social worker, orienting the student to your agency, clarifying the roles and expectations, and a space to provide direction and advice. Ask yourself, what techniques and behaviors do you plan to utilize in this phase as a field placement supervisor? Next is the middle or working phase. Since supervision is only as good as the information students share, and most students typically do not talk about the most critical and difficult subjects, it is important for the supervisor to create an environment in which the student feels it is okay to talk openly about the issues and concerns they face in their work with clients. This will come up in the beginning phase, but it is in the middle phase that it is particularly important, since it is during this phase that students are more likely to encounter their greatest challenges with client systems as they begin to engage in more autonomous practice. Some ways you can help your student during this phase is to tune in to the student's feelings, check for possible feelings of disillusionment, normalize the gaps in understanding, and offer support, link theory to practice, and assist the student in assessing where they have triumphs and where they have challenges. What techniques and or behaviors would you utilize in this phase as a field placement supervisor? Lastly, there is the ending phase. During the last several weeks of the placement, students' work will wind down and the relationship with you will change again. It is important towards the end of each semester that you provide time in your supervision sessions for review and reflection, especially at the end of spring semester. It is important to be intentional about the task of ending the field placement. How you end your time with the student is how they will end with their clients. Students may want to avoid goodbyes and may joke, arrive late, or be absent. As with clients, this means intentionally reflecting on the prospect of ending and eliciting the student's feelings about it. Students will have difficulty with this, especially if they are ending their formal education with the university. However, Endings are important as they provide both the supervisor and the student with opportunity to reflect on and learn from their time together and discuss what went right and wrong. Here are some of the ways you can help your student through the ending phase. Helping students end with client systems. Students often don't get a lot of classroom preparation around termination with clients. So it is particularly important they have your help with this. Talking with your students about how they feel about ending. Ending with clients can often lead students to feel guilty, as if they are abandoning their clients. They may also need help with boundaries as they might want to continue to see clients or vice versa. Helping them set professional boundaries during this time is especially helpful for students as they enter the next stage in their social work career. What techniques, behaviors would you utilize in this phase as a field placement supervisor?
Field support process. Problems are normal in field. We really view this as a student support process, as most students will encounter at least some portion of this process, and that's all right. This process not only supports the student, but also supports agencies and functions as a gatekeeping mechanism. We also have a handout of the problem resolution process located on our website. This process consists of a 4-step approach. Step 1 is a meeting with the supervisor and the student to discuss the challenge at hand. This meeting should be a focus on the specific issue and not simply tied to a regular supervision. This isn't where you are just giving regular feedback and redirection. It's where, for example, you've told your student several times that their spotty attendance has been an issue and things still haven't resolved. Now it's time for a more serious conversation. You don't need to get your FFL involved at this point, but they are available for support to consult to you both. You should, after this conversation, simply at least drop off an email to your FFL to say, I had a talk with a student today about X, Y, and Z, and this was the outcome of the conversation. I don't need anything right now, but I just wanted to let you know, and there's no need for follow-up just yet. This way, the FFL can just keep their ears open for if anything comes up in seminar, and it's just aware of the case in case things don't improve. Stage 2 is if things don't get any better, the FFL should be contacted. The FFL will talk with the student separately and then talk to the agency, and then come to the agency and the student for a group meeting. The FFL's role is to clarify and to help negotiate and resolve the problem. Through this stage, we are trying to avoid the need for triangulation so that there is a support open and communication and understanding to reframe the situation. After the meeting, the FFL will email everyone a summary of what was discussed, the next steps, and a plan for change. Stage 3 is if things still aren't getting better, we formalize the process a bit more and invite the faculty advisor at the university to look at the big picture. Are there problems coming up across courses, or is this limited to just field? What else is going on that's impacting the student? And have we had a serious discussion, and where do we go next? If stage 3 doesn't work, then we move into step 4, which is the formal university performance review that looks to see if the student is suitable for the program at this time. We want to remind supervisors that rarely do situations end up reaching this stage, and that most problems are resolved within the earlier stages. If any issues come up, please reach out to your FFL if you need consultation on these processes.
We want to encourage all of our agency supervisors to stay connected to the field office. We have several events that as a community partners, you all are welcome to attend. These include agency ongoing trainings. We now offer CUs. In addition, our field appreciation event takes place in the spring, and we invite all of our supervisors to join us for a catered breakfast and award ceremony to celebrate all of your contributions to our students during the academic year. If you have any additional questions or concerns around the field process or working with your social work intern, please do not hesitate to reach out to our office at field@msudenver.edu. We are always happy to connect with all of you. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this recorded agency orientation. We appreciate the time and work that you all have done, and we look forward to your continued partnership.